Hey, what's up? Silas here. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the headlines of the Sunday newspapers here in Kenya. But first, I'm going to talk about the NCAA upset or win of the UMBC Retrievers over the Virginia Cavaliers. It was the 16th ranked team beating the number one team, I think, in the whole actual tournament. So that's been a huge upset. And then I'm going to talk about this one reporter in China who had this thing where she, like, look, this one other reporter looked up and down, like, did this eye roll thing, and just the shenanigans that have gone out. Not shenanigans, it might be even worse, a lot worse than shenanigans. Shenanigans need to be used for something more lighter than this. But what has transpired after that? So, the UMBC thing. University of Maryland, Baltimore County. My brother went to that school, so I saw him post something about there was a school in Florida that went undefeated in the football season, in the collegiate football season, but they didn't make it into the playoffs because some people decide who makes it into the actual collegiate playoffs. So the team that actually won the NCAA championship, which was Alabama, had one loss, and this team didn't even make the championship, and they had no losses. So they said it's good to see the underdogs, with dogs kind of in quotation marks, because the name of the mascot of the school is a retriever. And then you get to a situation where they answered back like that's really good to hear. UMBC answered back, the Twitter handle answered back, that's really nice to hear from the national champions, kind of making the nod that yes, they are the national champions because they're the only undefeated team, I think, in NCAA Division One football. That's the top division of the top schools, supposedly. So I was just thinking about this thing, how the underdog situation, our team comes up and wins, but just how you have this tournament of 64 teams. I don't know what they're called. I don't know what the 64 and 32 rounds are called, but then it goes like the 64, 32, Sweet 16, Elite 8, then the Final Four, then you get the championship, you get the person who wins. UMBC is going to play today. I don't know if they're going to win. But having this situation where you do what you can, you work as hard as you can, and then you get in there and you can still actually win. You can still get that chance. And then you have a situation like, I think there was one team that was brought in because they had maybe the best player in college, at least one of the most exciting players. That player was put into the actual, his team was put into the actual tournament. I think it was Trey Young in Oklahoma, if I'm not mistaken. But they were put in, and then they ended up losing in the first round. But they were put in because people were thinking, okay, the people who are deciding this want the most exciting player because it's going to be television ratings, and the NCAA is a business and they're trying to make money. So there's an aspect of that where you think in this one situation, who could have gotten in instead of Trey Young's team, and then they put them in and then they fail. In these situations where you do whatever you can, you do the most that you can, and then you still don't get the chance to actually go out there and perform and try to play for that winning position. And you see that happening in NCAA football. That team was left out. That Florida team was left out. But here you had a situation where UMBC was put in, and some people didn't really give them the chance, but they went out there and played hard, and they thrashed them. I think it was like 70 to 50. It was like in the 70s to the 50s, like a 20-point difference. It's a massive difference. I think it was the first time in history it's ever happened. I don't know if it's just the first time in history that the 16th seed in the bracket, because it's 4 different brackets, beat the first seed. I think it's the first time like the actual overall number one team in the nation lost to the 16th seed in the first round. Yeah, that's it. I think even it's totally because I don't even think in the later rounds. Yeah, because you always play 1/16. Anyway, so onto the China thing. This reporter had this situation where they had this huge Chinese National Congress thing where the National Party kind of comes together and then they put on this whole I don't know, say kabuki theater is this thing from Japan where they have this elaborate play where everybody knows it's an elaborate play going to lengths and extents to kind of get into a situation where I don't know if I'm I don't think I'm 1 second. I'm going to look this up. Okay, yeah. Kabuki theater is a classical Japanese dance drama. Kabuki theater is known for its stylization of its drama and some of its elaborate makeup worn by some of its performers, the individual kanji. So yeah, it's this elaborate thing where they kind of go through this process to kind of dramatize something. And I think that's how the theater is. I mean, that's how it's not political theater. Actually, it is political theater. It's entirely political theater, I think, in China. It's a lot more than I think in the United States of America and some other places. But they had this process where the leading party was doing this whole it was like a convention type thing where they introduced people, and Xi Jinping, the president or now emperor of China, he has taken away the what's called presidential limits, term limits. So now he can be president for life. So they've gotten to that situation, and it's a very tense time for the ruling party, for the people in power, as they try to consolidate power like this. And to have this reporter kind of go and eye roll, because she was eye rolling ostensibly at this question by this other reporter that's actually hired in an American company called the American News Network that's actually based in California. She was asking this long-winded question, kind of kowtowing or just praising the ruling party going into the theater. And this reporter, let me try to find her name here. The reporter's name is Liang Jiangji. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. I think Jiangji. She was removed from the internet. They have control over the internet. There's already banned terms. There's banned letters. I think they banned the letter L or N or something from the internet for some reasons in China. Then I saw this other story where in Hong Kong, which is controlled by the Chinese government right now, they're putting in this thing a 3-year jail sentence for insulting the flag. Imagine if it was in a situation where there's you have athletes taking a knee in sports there, and then taking a knee during the national anthem. They could be jailed for 3 years. In the United States of America, okay, Colin Kaepernick doesn't have a job yet, but still, I'm saying the ESPN people, you sportscasters, you sports networks, hire him. Hire him and have him be like a football specialist and show that he knows knowledge about football instead of saying just, wow, people need to hire him. No, go out there and show him. If you were an athlete and you think that, okay, he's still a good player, go out and spend time working out with him. Don't just let him work out himself. Reach out to him. You can still help this guy out. If he's also just really an amazing player, why doesn't he just go to the Canadian Football League? I know the National Football League is the top league and everything, and he's played in there, but he can go there, play a year, show that he can still play, and then come back. I mean, then you can completely take down all these assumptions that it's about politics. And I know it is somewhat about his politics, but it's also about his play. As somebody pointed out, if it was Tom Brady taking a knee during the anthem, he'd still have a job. So Colin Kaepernick is not like the top flight of quarterbacks, but he has abilities. Anyway, so back to this thing. So we're talking about the sports in the start, the UMBC thing, right? How that brings people together. Like how my brother went to school there. And I'm wondering, if you just lived in Baltimore and you didn't even know University of Maryland had a Baltimore campus or a Baltimore County one, would you feel more pride? I mean, that's one thing I'm wondering. There's something about sports and things like this that unites people together. And then you have people's efforts in playing sports, and then they get out and they're not really as successful as they can be due to limitations by other people, by the politics involved in there. And there's always been politics involved in sports, like the people deciding who plays for the championships, who goes to what school, what's afforded in this sense. I'm not saying racism hasn't been a part of it, but it's definitely been a big part of it. But just it's definitely not, I think, as much an incident as it was in the past. I mean, the racism aspect in sports. Yeah, so back to the story of Gigi Payne. Sorry, all over the place with these things. So back to this. So she was taken out. She's been removed from actually criticizing, she wasn't even directly criticizing the government. She was just involved in a situation where it made this whole kabuki theater of this government event look bad. And then people have lashed onto her for that and said, like, yes, you are a hero. Like, we're proud of you. We're proud of what you did. You're standing up to this. Yes, we don't like this kind of we don't like this whole kissing up to the establishment thing, and that's enough to just have her wiped out. She's been taken off from I think there was a recent event where she would have typically covered, but she was taken off from there. So what's happened to this lady? I don't know. But you contrast that with what's happening in the United States of America. You contrast that with what happens in other countries, where, especially the United States of America, where the press is saying we're under attack, the president is attacking us, we're feeling threatened, we're doing this. They are going at President Donald J. Trump so hard. I think even people on the left politically, it's coming out and saying, "Yeah, we've never seen something like this. This is crazy how blatantly they just despise Donald J. Trump, the president of the United States of America." And he tweets back at you. He says something like that. He doesn't wipe you off the internet. If anything, he actually points out more. He's like, yeah, look what this person said. Yi Jinping is not there tweeting saying, look what this lady said. And then she needs to be stopped or she's fake news. They just completely she's not news. She's no news. We don't even want her to be news. So this whole idea of saying that, this is happening. This press is under threat in the United States of America, but it's not under threat in... but it's actually under threat in the United States of America, and there's places like China where this is happening. China. But yeah, this is part of the whole, like, how I think the Chinese people, the Asian people, are just invisible when it comes to politics in the West. Like the Orient, that part of the universe. I think that is the dark continent now when it comes to politics, not Africa. Because you often have people talk about how crappy Africa is, how there's problems in Africa, how Africa this, Africa that, in that sense. And oddly enough, because of that African connection and China coming to Africa and having a lot more influence here, like they just opened a military base. They're extending their military presence in China with more. In Africa with more bases. That might be actually how people in the West actually start paying more attention to what's happening in China through Africa, in a sense. And I guess that could also be part due to the fact of the relationship in the past that United States and the West has with Africa, with slavery and things like that, because they are actually aware of that and they actually pay attention to some of those things, unlike some other countries. But I think that's it for the start. Oh yeah, just one more thing I just wanted to ask. If you're in the sports thing, that's the thing. If you were in Baltimore, as I mentioned before, and you didn't know there was a University of Maryland campus there, do you feel now some pride because of the team there? And I was wondering with this team environment thing, and as I also mentioned with the whole like protest thing, is sporting events that big in China, in a place like a China? Are they that big? The sporting kind of leagues and things like that. Do they unite people in that way? And I think that's one thing I kind of like about the United States of America. When I was there years back, it was almost a decade back, I started thinking the way you have tribes here in Africa and Kenya, in my experience, was kind of how you have tribes built through sports teams and things like that, and the teams in the area that the person grows up in. People have a shared culture and something they can share and unite people. And there is something about that. I know sports are just games, and maybe I might be biased from having played it, but I kind of appreciate that whole influence that it has in uniting people together, and how somebody could, yeah, UMBC won, and then I went to Baltimore, or I went to UMBC, and then it kind of makes you have some kind of connection to that. And that's something that I guess I feel somewhat to the schools I went to and I played to, but it might be different if you actually played versus if you're a fan. Anyway, so now I'm going to go to the newspapers. And yeah, might put that in a different video actually, but let me get to the newspapers now. Okay, so first we're going to go with the Sunday Standard here. Why the Prime Minister post is on everyone's lips. I haven't read this at all, just got this, opening it up, kind of going through it. Uhuru and Raila dialogue faced with this cyclic political turmoil. Kenyans are once again debating the idea of the executive power structure that will put an end to protracted tussles every election year. Because of this, there is a likelihood of constitutional change to bring back the Prime Minister post. So what happens in Kenya right now? The constitution came in 2010, and now when you win, when you have different political parties, you have, like it was Jubilee versus the NASA Alliance. It's kind of a situation where when your person wins president, you get everything. Like in the United States of America, yes, the presidential race is in, the president enters, but it's not like he wipes out, like Donald J. Trump was a Republican. It's not like he wipes out all the Democratic people in power, in positions of power. They still stay in, and there's more of a division of power. Yet in Kenya, when that happens, often everybody who was running in the opposition party now has to go hat in hand. Yeah, hat in hand. You know, hat in hand when you take your hat off and you're holding it out, to beg or to ask for the ruling power for the person who won to actually give them positions of power in the establishment. So you can see here they're trying to set up the different structure of deputy president, prime minister, and deputy PM. And this is just another thing in Kenya, just growing the size of the government. Like, why do you need a deputy president if you have a prime minister and a deputy PM? I don't know if this is a system they have in Italy, because I know in Italy the president is more of a figurehead, and then the prime minister is the one that actually does the laws, and that's more the parliamentary system of government and things like that. So I don't know what they're going to try to do with this. With the previous one, I did this last Sunday. If you guys watched that one, let me know. There was a really funny article that I read from there. Not really funny, really interesting article. It led to a lot of different places with some with some, I guess it is the religion politics, some religious intrigue with this pastor that was a complete criminal. And I found out more information about that by seeing his ex-wife, who was saying I'm too beautiful to be single. I was thinking it was a thing of female vanity. It turned out to be something of spiritual vanity or something, spiritual insanity. I don't know. Here, we're talking about sports in the start, but athletes race from rags to riches and back to rags. So change fortunes. Incredible stories of world beaters journey from want to wealth and back to poverty. Now, this is a situation. You have some of these people who are these marathon runners, and the sporting world is not as developed here in Kenya as it is somewhere like in the United States of America. But even in the United States of America and other countries in the world, you see places of an athlete becoming very wealthy, they have the wrong people around them, or they're not prepared to have that money, and then they end up being poor again rather soon. So that's something here. This might be an article I want to read because it might give some more insight, might be more general to the things. I think I'm also going to be suggesting, if enough people are actually watching these videos, and then you suggest maybe one of these headlines, one of these things that you want to know more about, then I'll go in sometime during the week and actually read more of that article. So I think I'll be giving it until maybe Wednesday. I mean, some of these are not time sensitive. Maybe I'll be giving this video, I'll post it on Sunday, then I'll give the video until Tuesday or Wednesday to see who posts something about it, who says like, yeah, I want this article, I want that article. And then whichever one has the highest vote, I'll actually read on Wednesday or that day after or something like that. So the last one is lobbying as Nyeri's Kahiga readies to name deputy. So the governor keeps the tight lid. So that's just a governor in a different area. Not too sure about that one. So yeah, this one. So as I mentioned before, Raila Odinga was a leader of the NASA alliance, and he got into this thing where he started talking to the president without the knowledge of the other principals of the NASA alliance. And now, now there's more of a schism in the situation. And I was watching more stories about Raila Odinga and the history of Kenyan politics. Some really good news stories, some really good news programs being doing here. The media, I think, does some pretty decent job of informing or doing some research and stuff. And I saw how Raila Odinga had done something similar in the past. I think it was involving with Moi, who was the second president of Daniel Arap Moi, was the second president of Kenya. And he came to a similar deal where Raila Odinga was running at that time. He was in an alliance, and then he kind of went and had a deal with Moi to get power. It was Moi or Kibaki, I think it was Moi, but he did that because Raila was together with Moi Kibaki, who ended up being the third president of Kenya, and a few other people, but he ended up taking this deal and getting into power. So they're saying this is another thing. But now he's done that, and they say Raila team wants NASA bosses out of unity deal. So these are some of the other principles, and now there's a schism between the NASA thing where Raila has something with Uhuru Kenyatta, and these other people are kind of pointing out. Now, last headline here, alarm over growing problem with smartphone addiction. My voice. Okay, something with my accent, what's in my voice. A friend sent me this thing of this frog. I'm going to put it on the screen, I think. And then maybe you guys can see it, and then you can see if you can say it. I'll give a pause and then have you guys said it. Okay. So, I don't know why I paused right there, because I'm just going to edit it into the video. But yeah, so could you say what was on screen there? Could you say that? I mean, for me, it was easy to say Irish wristwatches. Now, I don't know if it's easy for me to say Irish wristwatches because of my accent changes and things like that, and I think I watch what I say, or just from having a lot of practice making these videos and being more cognizant of what I'm saying. But yeah, that's some of those birds. I forgot what the cranes are. But anyway, now, just saying, this alarm over a growing problem with smartphone addiction. So this is a global thing. Humans are humans. We have technology. We have access to things there. You're seeing some trash there on the side there. Sorry about that. But here, so alarm growing over problem with smartphone addiction. So that's happening here as well too. In Kenya, in Nairobi, you're seeing this because humans are humans and technology is affecting us in different ways. I'm actually recording this on a smartphone. So am I addicted to smartphone? Not necessarily. I mean, depending on how you use things. But yeah, I could use them a little less, I think. But now let's go to the Sunday Nation. Ruto factor in Uhuru Raila grand scheme. So now, Ruto was deputy prime minister. Not the deputy prime minister. He's a deputy president. Right here. He ran with Uhuru Kenyatta, who's the president. Now, these talks that Uhuru Kenyatta, the president, and Raila Odinga had did not involve William Ruto, who was the deputy president. He wasn't involved in those. So deputy president has quietly gone back to the drawing board and is in a charm offensive in Jubilee and NASA strongholds, even as new details of the unity deal emerge. New details emerge of the unity deal. Now, he's wondering, is he going to be pushed out? If Raila Odinga starts getting more power, and as you mentioned here, you see there, if the prime minister post comes back, and Raila Odinga was a previous prime minister of this country, if the prime minister post comes back, that's going to reduce the power of the deputy president. So now he's also wondering like what's happening in here. So there's a lot of political intrigue going on in the politics there. Now, tough choices for NASA trio in fight for political survival. Now these are the three top other power brokers in the NASA alliance who are with Raila Odinga. That's Mr. Musyoka, Mr. Mudavadi, and Mr. Wetangula. So these, I think these might be from the same tribe. I don't know what tribe Musyoka is from. But these tribal alliances and things like that, trying to get the power in there, so they're also concerned and trying to find where they can enter, where they can be in this power situation. Um, right here, mending a broken love life. This is similar thing. People have relationships. That happen. Outrage as salary cuts hit the police. The police force here. Hey, Silas, that's my name. The police force here have. I don't know. I don't know how to talk about the police force here. Well, anyway, it's not as developed as it is in developed countries. That's one thing I think that really changes. One of the big things you can change, that you can tell with a developed country and a country that's not as developed, a developing country, is the police force. This level of professionalism in the police force, the level of importance it plays in the country. And I think that's more because the police force are enforcing state edicts. So as the state itself isn't as developed and as ingrained in society and as accepted or respected, the police force are also going to struggle because they are kind of their muscle or they're their enforcement forces. Polices enforce the laws of the state. So if you don't have an established state, kind of solid, respected, agreed, not respected, feared, I'd say. The states is more feared, but more acknowledged and I think accepted might be a good word. Because you kind of like people are like, yeah, taxation is theft, but we're not going to raise we're not going to raise a big whoop about it. We're still being like, the state is there, it's involved in everything. We have to have a license for everything. We have to do all these things. But you understand the police do these things in the country. But the police here have a lot of struggles. They're very underpaid. I guess some salary cuts coming, but you have some situations where the people on the top very well paid in the police. There's a lot of corruption in the police. There's a lot of situations where I'd say they take bribes. They pull you over, you bribe them like 100 shillings, 1,000 shillings or something in some different situations, and you get off. The law system is not as robust as I would say in other places. A lot of people still use private security and things like that rather than actually using the police. I think when you have an issue and you call the police. My one I've had a few incidents with the police. I remember there was one where I went there and I was on a matatu going to town and I was on my phone, smartphone addiction. I was on a BlackBerry at the time, talking. The window was open. It was a little hot. Somebody came and snatched it away. It's like Globe Cinema roundabout, and they ran into these like bushes or woods out there. I tried to get the matatu to stop so I can go out and look. People just like, no, you can't do anything. I mean, that's what happens. You go in there, it's dark. There's other people in there. They can actually beat you up and you can steal more things from you. I ended up going to the police station that was right in town, close by there, to make a report. And I went in there, and turns out, I mean, they didn't do anything. They took the report. I told them, yeah, that my phone was stolen. This is the number, etc., etc. There was somebody I met in there who was talking to me about it, and then they ended up going back out. And I think, I don't know. This is just a theory that I have. I talked to somebody in there, and I think he told me his name was Simba or something. And then I went out later on, and I found that the person who had my phone at the time was using my Twitter. Had changed he changed the name of my Twitter handle. It was still at Anuma Salis. And then he had changed his actual name, put his profile picture up there, and was tweeting on it. And I was like, "What's wrong with you, person?" I should have had a better. At that time, I didn't have a PIN number to unlock the phone and things like that. But anyway, the person had the phone and was using it, and I think it was the same person I talked to at the police station. I don't think it was a police officer. I think it was just somebody in there, and then that person might have gone out to that area and actually gotten my phone from that person, or this person might have been involved in somebody else. That person might have sold the phone to somebody else, and then they started using it. But anyway, if you buy a phone that's from someone else, why would you not even switch the Twitter angle? And then switch to your own Twitter. I mean, I don't understand the retardation of certain people. Anyway, so above here, Shabab in plot to recruit jobless NYS graduates. Nairobi, what's NYS? I don't know what NYS is. And Shabab is not, I don't know what this is. NYS, page 10. I'm gonna go check that out just for a second, just to have some idea of what this is. I think it's actually the Nairobi Youth Services, but let me just confirm that to be sure. The Director General, however, has come up with a database of recruits whom they monitor and they leave the service. NYS. Yes, the National Youth Service is kind of like a junior ROTC. It's kind of a thing where they train a lot of young people into military abilities and things like that, into military training, military abilities. What am I talking about? But yes, so Shabab is the Al Shabaab, this terrorist organization, Muslim extremists coming out of Somalia area and things like that. And now they're recruiting the people from the National Youth Service graduates who don't have jobs and things like that. So this is the kind of situation you're training these people in combat to be more aggressive, to use more of their military, and then you're not giving them something to do. And Al Shabaab is like, hey, you guys trained our recruits for us. Like, there's all these easy men who are, I mean, there are all these men who are frustrated and angry, so we're going to grab those up and add them into our system. So that's it for today. The whole Sunday newspaper thing. I'll get better at this. I'll get tighter with this. I'm going to cut off some of the fluff and things like this. I was just taking my morning walk and I was thinking, okay, I want to talk about that China and UMBC thing somehow. The UMBC thing, I'd heard of it yesterday and I was like, okay, the China thing I've been following for a while. And I just wanted to put them together somehow. And this newspaper thing, I think it was good. I'm really glad I did last ones and actually end up reading that article because that article led to so much. And links below to that other video so you can check that video out and hopefully get to that actual expose thing that was in there. Because, wow, the kind of inanity and insanity that was going on with this preacher and this ex-husband of this Betty Bio lady who was too beautiful to be to be single, and then turns out she's also a gospel singer, and oh wow, she's yeah. Anyway, so that's it for today. Hope you guys have a good Sunday wherever you guys are, and what's going on in the news where you are. That's it for now. Like, share, and subscribe. Links below to the merchandise store. There's a Patreon as well. If you guys want to help me out there, it'd be much appreciated. I'm going to start setting that up more, plugging that up more. And yeah, anyway, let me know. Goodbye. That's it for now. This whole goodbye is completely broken. I'll talk to you guys later.